Live.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome back to our Cycle Power Chat on this wonderful Tuesday. I'm Anna Saucier.
And I'm Melissa Buchan.
Awesome. So we are chatting today about what, Melissa?
Today we are talking about one of my very favorite topics, tracking your period versus charting your cycle. They are not one and the same.
Yeah, and what's the difference there? But first, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with the Cycle Power Summit, because we are approaching a very exciting month before the summit starts. So a week from tomorrow begins registration. You'll be able to get on the registration list and start really spreading the word for Cycle Power Summit. And we have an exciting announcement. We have Cycle Power Summit swag.
Yay!
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can put a picture in there. We don't have ours yet. I ordered mine, but so what happens with this is it's like a campaign. So we want to get a bunch of t-shirt orders in, and then as soon as we have a certain amount, then they will go ahead and create them and they'll send them out.
Yeah.
Let me do
so what's the number, Anna? Is there a certain number that we have to get to?
You know what? It's a date. So we need to have at least 5 shirts. Should be no problem at all. I think in the next 12 days.
Okay, gals and guys, they're really cool. Anna designed them and I can't wait to get mine.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a photo here in the comments. Let's see. Oh, it's working. So, but I'll just put the link in and you'll be able to see photos right there.
Awesome.
So there's the link for the Cycle Power Summit.
Yeah, cool. I see it.
Yeah, there's a unisex, or how do you say that? Guy, gal, t-shirt style. Then there's a slim fit ladies. Mm-hmm. And there's a cool tank, which I think is like a thinner workout material. So
really good for Houston, where we live.
Yeah, exactly. With how do they do that? Hashtag Cycle Power Summit.
I love it, yes.
Hashtag. Okay.
I love it. Love it. Okay.
That's what we're all about. All right. And I want to also mention, for those of you who may not know, we have incredible sponsors who've been so supportive of Cycle Power Summit. The International Institute of Restorative Reproductive Medicine, the Fertility Appreciation Collaborative to teach the science, facts, and Natural Womanhood have been amazing partners for the summit. And we're going to actually have a table at a Facts Conference Day in Indianapolis on April 5th, which is, those listening who might be frustrated that they have been to a doctor, mentioned fertility awareness, and their doctor has no idea what they're talking about. That's what Facts does. They work in the medical schools and talking to medical professionals about this stuff, that it is a legitimate science. So, yeah.
Great.
Here we go.
Anna, you've done a fantastic job. I mean, these are cream of the crop organizations who are supporting the summit, and the work that these organizations are doing, so phenomenal, so phenomenal. They're really laying a strong foundation for fertility awareness-based methods, and this is what women want. I mean, women are wanting to take control of their body, to understand it, and it's so amazing to know that all of these organizations are out there working for the good of women.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. So let's see, if you are listening, what can we ask them, Melissa, today? So maybe let's just learn if you are charting already, how are you charting? Mm-hmm. Do you chart on paper? Do you chart with an app? Since we're talking about this idea of, or even if you're just tracking your period, if you even just use a calendar or on your phone, maybe you say period started and you're pretty regular in cycle length, so you might know when to expect your next period. So, but tell us, how do you chart? How do you track this?
Yeah, we want to know. We want to know. And Anna, let me know when the comments are coming in. I am not able to see them in the BeLive, so you let me.
I will. We have one lucky person watching live right now.
Hello and welcome.
Okay, so let's dive in.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're talking about tracking your period versus charting your cycle. And I think, Melissa, the biggest point here is that contrary to a lot of what we talk about, we're talking about menstrual cycles, it's the period. Yeah. Because obviously that's the most visible, that's the most impactful, at least on the external side of the cycle, but it's actually not the most important part of the cycle. What is?
Right. We need to understand that your period is not synonymous with the menstrual cycle. It's one of the phases of the menstrual cycle. So Anna, let's just begin by really defining what the menstrual cycle is by its 4 phases. So Perfect. We have menstruation, which of course is known as the period, and then we enter into the follicular phase, so that pre-ovulatory phase. Then we have the ovulatory event, and then the luteal phase. So 4 phases. When we are tracking our cycles, it's really helpful to just divide it into 2 sections, the pre-ovulatory phase and the post-ovulatory phase. And when we do this, guess who's boss of the cycle? Ovulation. It's not menstruation that dictates the cycle, it's ovulation that dictates the cycle. So we want to understand that the pre-ovulatory event, that is where the variability comes from, and really what has made women's cycles an enigma over the centuries. Because with no certainty from the first day of menstrual bleeding when you are going to ovulate and when your next period is going to begin. Unless, of course, you are one of the lucky 13% of women who experience that classic 28-day cycle after cycle after cycle. But the luteal or post-ovulatory phase, that's very stable in its length. So if you can determine with accuracy when your ovulatory event occurs, and I say it takes about 3 cycles. I always say, give me 3 cycles. After 3 cycles, you know the length of that luteal phase. You know when your period's coming. So it's all about pinpointing when ovulation happens. And when we do this, we know a lot of information, whether it just be for body awareness, whether it be for health evaluation, or for family planning.
So you're saying it's perfectly normal to have a longer phase, would you call it the follicular phase, before ovulation? And
yeah, so absolutely. So if there's any variability, it's not the cycle, your period that's hopping around, it's the day of ovulation that's hopping around. So if you can line up your cycle after cycle after cycle, I really like apps and charting techniques that can kind of stack those cycles on top of each other. And then you can see the pattern from cycle to cycle to cycle. And when women do this, they're like, oh, I always thought I was regular, but I'm not. And it may just be by 4 or 5 days that one cycle varies from the next. But what we're seeing is that peak day or the ovulatory event is hopping around in the cycle. So yeah, so if you have a longer cycle, then that follicular phase is what is lengthening.
And what's cool is that just because you don't have the same full cycle length every month, you still can figure out how to predict when your period's coming.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right? And I wish I knew this when I was in high school. And I'm
yes.
in high school. That they would know this information. Adolescence, it's a difficult time. And especially in this fast-paced world, girls are dealing with a lot. And if you can use your menstrual cycle as a tool to improve self-esteem rather than something to just really dread and hate, my goodness. Come on now, body image through the roof. That's what we want every young girl to do.
Well, Melissa, moms are dealing with a lot too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Adolescents, moms, we all can benefit from knowing exactly when that period is coming.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So then you mentioned, so what do we get out of that? What are the benefits of that? Knowing when your period's coming, and also knowing those days of fertility and infertility. Mm-hmm. Fertility and infertility. I said it right. Yeah. So that if you do want to use this as a family planning method, mm-hmm. It's awesome.
On any given day, whether you're fertile or infertile, and then you can make your family planning intentions or choices according to your intention. I think it's a really beautiful way to live out your life and to live out your relationship. And, if we can talk a bit about that, there are a lot of ways to plan a family. It can be kind of stressful. But if you know what your body's capable of, then you have control over that. And even, I think no matter what approach you take, if you know what your body's capable of, well, then you're going to be like, hey, you know what? If today's the day of fertility and I'm wanting to avoid a pregnancy, a walk in the park would probably be a good idea tonight rather than other activities. And then you don't have that anxiety surrounding your intention. You're confident in it and you're able to make decisions according to what you're desiring. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, we have a whole session for the Cycle Power Summit on those other ways of creating that intimacy in your relationship outside of sex. Yeah.
There's so many sessions that, I get a little preview because I'm half of them. So I've got a front row seat there. But I know I've watched some of yours, that there's just so many great information to get through. So some of them I'm kind of undecided if I want to watch them all pre-watch or if I want to watch right there with everybody else during the summit.
Yeah, me too. Because the ones that a lot of them that you have interviewed, I haven't seen either. So yeah, it's totally fun. So then some more interesting points that we wanted to cover is this then becomes, so when you've been charting a number of cycles, starting to see those patterns, it becomes like your personal health manual.
Yes, absolutely. And this is really where it differentiates tracking your period versus charting your cycle. So tracking your period, you know when your period starts, but do you know the pattern of your period? Do you know if it's within a normal perimeter? What about the premenstrual or the tail end bleeding that you experience? When you're tracking or when you're charting your cycle, you get so much more insight than just knowing when the first day of your menstrual period is and the overall length of your cycle.
Yeah, not only are you then able to compare that yourself or with a doctor to what is, normal, but you also know what is normal for you.
Yes, so important.
Which might be just fine for you, or it may be an indicator of an abnormality.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of the doctors in the summit will be addressing that issue. Hey, I'm curious, Anna, have you gotten any responses on what people are using to chart their cycles? What comments do we have going?
No, we don't yet.
Oh, come on, guys. We want to hear.
Come on, guys.
Yes. And ladies, I should say, come on, ladies. It's probably who is listening to us today.
Yeah, probably. And if you are listening to replay on this, because a lot more people, we have busy lives, and the last two, we had a lot more viewings on replay, which is totally cool. Yeah. We still want to know. So if you're listening to this on replay, pop it in the comments.
Yes. How are you?
It really helps us to channel a lot of this summit to be answering the questions and the needs of the people who are attending. So, particularly if you're planning on attending the summit or sharing it with other people, we want to know what your real life is like.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. All right. So we talked about, charting the menstrual phase and just even knowing the parameters of what menstruation looks like, but then going through that ovulatory event. And I think we talked about this last time, Anna, but, we think, okay, well, we either ovulate or we don't in any given cycle, but the quality of ovulation really is a telltale sign too. And we can look into that by understanding the phases or the luteal phase and some of the parameters of the luteal phase and what's going on there.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And those things, we have a whole session on what is normal and, or not in your cycle, but that it all affects each other. Those abnormalities in that luteal phase that is affected by the hormones that are happening in the follicular phase, which then affects the quality of the ovulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back of all the different interviews that I've had and which doctors and which experts are chiming in on each of the different topics. So, and I know you have a week full of interviews. Can I ask who you're interviewing this week?
Okay. Yes, I got to remember. I am talking with Dr. Marguerite Duane. I'm going to do a session that deep dives into effectiveness rates of fertility awareness-based methods. It's really awesome.
And for all of you who don't know, Dr. Duane, oh, there's my dog. He's protecting me today. That's Champ, and he is my loyal guard dog.
Good job, Champ.
Yeah. And I lost my train of thought. Oh, Dr. Duane, yeah. And so she is head of FACTS, the Fertility Awareness
Collaborative
for Teaching the Sciences. Yeah, so it's so amazing that she'll be contributing to the summit. So, that's going to be a good interview, Anna.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I love talking with Dr. Dwayne. And also Allison Contreras also works with facts. And we're going to be diving into all the different apps that are out there and understanding, which ones we can use for different reasons and the effectiveness of them. And because there's a lot there. Different apps are making calculations based on past events and providing you with information, based on that. Other apps are just allowing you to, track your period, which is great, but it's all important to know that information so that it can be used appropriately according to intentions.
Yes,
So.
Dr. Contreras' research it's incredible. It gives us so much insight into understanding the importance of apps, but then the importance of choosing the correct app. So you know your body best. There are great tools for helping us collect and assess the data in a very organized manner, but you know your body better than your phone knows your body.
That's a great point. Absolutely. It's just data, but there's so much awareness. And actually I wanted to ask you about that, Melissa, because we talked about using this, charting your cycle and knowing your cycle for all of these like diagnostic tools and knowing it. But I've heard before this concept of that we actually have different energies or are able to focus in different ways, or maybe it's time to retreat in different parts of the cycle. And this is fascinating to me. And I think you know more about that than I do.
Well, okay, so do you know why I know more about this? I don't think I know more about it. I don't. I think I know just as much as you do. But it's because I've been charting for 15 years. And so it's just intuitive to me. I'm able to know when my energy is high, when I'm laser focused, when to make that to-do list, and when to just really tackle the tasks that I've already laid out, maybe allow extra time for sleep, not plan a lot of really big social outings because I tend to be a little bit introverted by nature. And so I've always been aware of that, but now there are more and more, research and just content coming out about this idea of living according to your feminine genius and your feminine energy. And so it really excites me. And just like you, I'm fascinated by it. So last week I interviewed Dr. Jolene Brighton, and she talks a lot about that in the interview. It's a really, really fun interview. But it's this idea that we should not be suppressed by our womanhood, but we should shout it from the rooftops and really tap in. And this is really what it makes men and women, we are created differently. We're complementary, but we are created differently. And when I'm working one-on-one with my clients, I always say, okay, if your guy was to chart, it would be a boring chart, because guess what? He's fertile every single day and he's ready to go every single day, and it's just the same thing every single day. But women, we are hormonal roller coasters, and hormones dictate so much about our well-being, our mood, our energy levels. So being able to tap into that, we are really able to open up this whole world of possibility. So in that, a lot of women will relate to, like, right after they're coming off of their period, they feel great. It's the best time of the cycle. They have a lot of energy. This is a great time to really utilize that. Know that your estrogen levels are starting to rise. This is when we become focused, we become motivated. Time for, if you are big into working out, you can have certain types of workouts around elevated estrogen levels. And then we ovulate. This is a great time for really fostering relationships. If you're charting, you know that your honey looks a little extra attractive during that time. And it's because we are supposed to carry on and perpetuate generation after generation. So that's just, natural biological mechanism there. But it's just that nature of, it's a great time to build in all relationships because we connect with one another really beautifully during the time of ovulation. And then in that luteal phase, a beautiful time for self-care. So things tend to slow down a little bit, progesterone levels increase. It's a feel-good hormone. Sometimes it's a sleepy hormone, or we may notice our bowels start to slow down. If there's any type of hormonal imbalance, progesterones aren't quite where they need to be, you probably feel pretty icky. You might be getting frequent headaches. Your mood may be a little out of control. And so for women who struggle with PMS, when I'm working with couples, I say, hey, this is if a guy knows how to read his lady cycle, it's a great tool for relationship building because he knows, okay, up here she's in the luteal phase, and historically she struggles with a little bit of premenstrual syndrome. I'm not going to take it personally. She's grumpy and she's mad at me, but it's not something I need to take personally. And maybe I can give her that TLC that she needs. And helping to just optimize relationships through the course of the menstrual cycle. And I could talk all day about this. I do get excited about it.
I know, and I could listen to it all day. And I just think it's important to recognize that this is not a bad thing. It's not something that, oh, okay, well, now we have to track this, so I know when I do this or that. I think in our, in our to-do list, always going society today, it's like something else to manage feels heavy.
Yeah.
Now, something else I have to pay attention to, but there's a mindset shift there in looking at it as if we can tap into that knowledge and understanding of not only, this natural flow that every woman has, but for mine in particular, and understanding, my why and what my goals are, and then using that to dive in where it's appropriate. And I think we can get so much more out of ourselves, and, and then do self-care when it's time, but on a pattern and not just when we finally burn out.
Absolutely not when we can fit it in, but according to our cycle. And a perfect transition there into family planning as well. So depending on what your intention is, intimate relationships in marriage, for a couple who's not paying attention to this, and maybe they're not following the natural rhythm of fertility and infertility, you can kind of take that intimacy for granted and not prioritize that in your relationship. So, statistics show couples at the longer that they're married, intimacy tends to diminish. They tend to save those intimate relationships for the weekends, or they fit it into their busy schedule. But if you live according to your cycle and it's a Wednesday night and you just closed your fertile window, guess what? You're going to get to the kids to bed a little earlier that night, and you're going to make a Wednesday night special. When do we ever make Wednesday night special? But I really, this idea of, when you use a natural fertility awareness method, it's just so structured and it's not whenever you want. Well, no, it's not, but it's according to your cycle. And that, I think, is what authentic relationships are built on. It's when you prioritize that into your busy life. So,
yeah, I love looking at it like that. We get these ideas that sex and intimacy has to be spontaneous for it to be meaningful. And I'm not sure where that comes from, but I think once you're able to tap in and practice the alternative, then it's like planning for a vacation or planning for something, any other fun thing you're going to do this weekend. Like the buildup and the excitement for it is half of the whole thing.
Especially for females. Yeah. That's why I think it's so important that when you're charting with your partner and they know how to read your cycle and pay attention to what's going on, it builds a level of communication that transcends over the entirety of the relationship.
Yeah, I love it. We didn't actually mean to talk about a lot of that relationship stuff, but it's cool. So
it's just part of it. It just spills out over all of this. Yeah.
So let us know what you think in the comments about the conversation. Do you agree, disagree? Have you tried it? Maybe it doesn't work. We want to hear about that too.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what did we talk about? Periods are not the most important event in your cycle. Very important to recognize.
It's actually, what is it? Ovulation.
There you go. Ovulation. And then what do we get out of charting our cycle versus if you're just tracking your period, okay, 28 days, I'm going to start my next period. But knowing those different phases of the cycle allows you to, even in an inconsistent length of a cycle, which is most of us, you still can accurately predict your upcoming period. You could know days of fertility and infertility. You can use it as a diagnostic tool to go to a doctor who knows how to read these charts. And if you're having any problems or your chart's showing signs of any problems, this is a medical tool. And you can tap into our feminine energy.
Yes, all good stuff, all good stuff. And this is why I'm so excited about the work that I do. And I know, Anna, you are too, because there's so many levels to it. There are so many levels.
Yeah, layers. We won't talk about the onion. I think that came up in another cycle.
I think I said that last time. I'm like, I didn't think that through, but yeah, it's kind of like an onion. Yeah.
Women have layers. And I have to come up with something else that has layers that's cooler than an onion.
We're like an onion. You start peeling us back and we make you cry.
Yes, but there is nothing as good smelling as an onion when you're cooking, right?
That's true. They add such dimension and flavor to food. Absolutely.
We digress. Okay. So share this, you guys. Okay. Listen, there are so many women out there who need this basic information about, how we can tap into this menstrual cycle for health, for knowledge of our bodies, for relationships, for medical, for medical problems. So share this with somebody. Just hit share on the video. Tell someone you know about the Cycle Power Summit, and go check out the t-shirts.
Yes. Order your t-shirt. And if you have a daughter, if you're a mother and you're listening to it, order one for your daughter. I mean, she's probably not going to wear it to school, but she can use it as a sleep shirt, wear it around the house. It starts conversations.
Yeah.
Probably going to rock my shirt. I think I'm going to get one for my daughter too. I need to do that.
Oh, cool. So yeah, we're live on Facebook right now, but we're also on Instagram. #Cycle Power Summit. Have a great day, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.